welcome back. So, judging by the setup that I currently have, you can probably tell that I am not at home, and you would be right because unless you didn't watch the last couple of episodes of my channel, you would know that I am actually on vacation right now in New York, and I'm actually at a friend's house. And I'll tell you what, this setup was actually not as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, yes, the board is kind of a little bit crooked, and I'm using pillows, and also my backpack is one of the supporting stands for this board, but the lighting itself, it's actually not bad, and you could maybe even argue it's much better than the one that I have at home. So I'm kind of happy about that. Also, since I am at my friend's house, if you hear him kind of be a little bit ragey upstairs, that's because he's watching the Dolphins versus Jaguars game, and he's a huge Dolphins fan, and he tends to be a little bit salty about some of those stuff. And also, there he does have a cat here, so if he is actually roaming around here and meowing, that's kind of something that I want to tell you in advance in case you hear like a cat meow in the background. But either way, let us actually get into the 11 games review. Oh, by the way, I do apologize the fact that I wasn't able to upload the preview. I tried to upload it 4 times on YouTube, and all the time it just fails to upload, and eventually I kind of just gave up because, by the 4th time it was already Saturday and the games were already happening, and there's really just no point of me uploading a preview when these games, of course, is already happening. And also, I'm not actually going to go in order in terms of talking about this game. I'm actually just going to go in order of the games that I took on my notes because, since I have the small boards on right now, and since I can't bring the big boards while I'm traveling, and I'm only putting like the goals and the stats of this, basically I have to kind of read off notes. And if you actually watch a couple of months ago when I did a review when I was in Salt Lake City and also in LA, you probably will know the drill by now of me have to read off the notebook. And in some way, this board is all the games that I was able to watch yesterday, and then the next board is all the games that I basically watched the condensed highlights or the actual highlights on the league's YouTube channel. But with that being said, let us actually begin with talking about the first game, because I think it's been enough time to kind of do some chit chat about this intro. And we start off with the first game, which is Montreal versus the Philadelphia Union, which ended in a 2-2 draw. And I'll tell you what, the Union, they looked like they were going to steal this game. I mean, Montreal was by far the better team in this one, and the Union, in quick succession, they scored 2 goals, and it looked like in the end they were going to steal all 3 points for Montreal and had a perfect road game. And then, they conceded a late goal to unable to steal all 3 points in this one. But in the 12th minute, Camacho did put it over the bar from close range after some bad defending from the Union. Wagner did try to do a little rando layout, but unfortunately he hits the post. But I thought early on Montreal was on the front foot, and they were looking for the go-ahead goal, and they eventually would do so. As in the 32nd minute, Miljovic scores for Mihajlovic to make it 1-0 in favor of Montreal. I do apologize if I completely butcher his name, because I think that was the first time I actually saw him playing, and the fact that, actually, it's not the first time I saw him play. I'm pretty sure he has played for Montreal before, but that, of course, is his first goal. And anytime when you have those kind of two players kind of combine each other, it's going to be difficult for me to kind of just, say Miljovic and Mihajlovic at the same time, because it's kind of like a little tongue twister. If you say that like maybe 5 times fast, it's going to be hard to kind of pronounce that. But either way, Montreal was up 1-0 32 minutes in, and that would be the scoreline as we head into the second half. Now, in the second half, not much happened in the first 15 minutes of the second half, but in the 62nd minute, the Union was able to get the equalizer, and it's Pentemis, unfortunately, scoring the own goal here, and this was a very similar goal to the winning goal that the U.S. scored against Costa Rica, where this one came off the post, but unfortunately it ricocheted right into the goalkeeper, and he basically redirected toward goal. And unlike the one in that game between the U.S. and Costa Rica, where it kind of came off the back of the goalkeeper, this time it came off the heels of Pentemis, and unfortunately he redirected that one toward goal as he was kind of diving to try to make the save there. I mean, it's always very unfortunate when that does happen, But yeah, the game was all tied up at one apiece. Elliott almost will score an own goal in the 66 minutes. As on the other end, we actually almost had an own goal, and Jack Elliott almost did so when he redirected a shot toward goal, but Freese was able to save it. I thought Matt Freese had a decent game in this one, and he was kind of one of the reasons why the Union was in this game for a bit. But in the 70th minute, Torres' 18-yard shot was tipped over the bar by or not Pentimus, but by Freese before Charnier puts it high from long range. And Montreal, they were definitely pressing to try to get the lead back in this one. But then in the 77th minute, the Union was able to equalize, or not equalize, but actually take the lead, as Wagner was able to be the one that takes the lead for the Union. And yeah, that was not great set piece defending for Montreal. And originally it looked like maybe someone kind of got off of the touch, because this was actually a dangerous free kick that Wagner basically puts in the box, and yeah, nobody touched it, and it just goes into the back of the net. And anytime when that happened, I mean, unless if it's a dangerous ball that was into the box, which this one was relatively dangerous with the way that Kai Wagner swing it into the box, but at the same time, yeah, you feel like somebody's gonna have to get to it, and especially in a Montreal perspective, you would think that some of these defenders should easily clear that one away, but it wasn't dealt with. And the Union, despite for this game they weren't really at their best, they were leading 2-1 in Montreal. And as time kind of wound down, Montreal was definitely pushing late for the equalizer. Piet had a header that was blocked by Elliott off the line before Ibrahim heads it high from 10 yards out in the second minute. And as the clock was ticking down, it looked like Montreal, or it looks like the Union was going to get all 3 points. But then in the 5th minute of stoppage time, Montreal equalized, and it's Ibrahim, who of course missed earlier. He would score here at the dying moment of the game from Kizar and Miller to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to just 4 that the Union has, 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Union has, 3 shots off target compared to 1 that the Union has, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that the Union has in this game. And overall, I don't think either of these teams are going to be happy after this result. I mean, for the Union, yes, they were kind of second best in this game, but they just came so close of stealing this one. And anytime when you give up a late goal, no matter if you're home or away, it has to be very agonizing. But for Montreal, yes, they did come back in the end, but the way that they play in this game, they should have got free points in this one. And now that they also kind of lost a little bit ground in terms of the playoff race. I mean, they're still above the playoff line right now, but that all depends on today's game between the Red Bulls and NYCFC in the New York Derby. And in some way, Montreal is going to be the biggest Red Bulls fan in today's New York Derby, because they need the Red Bulls to win if they want to stay above the red line as of now. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is a crucial Western Conference playoff 6-pointer between LAFC versus the San Jose Earthquakes, and in the end, it's LAFC getting the 3-1 win against the Quakes, and they got off to a quick start in this one, as Maswatsky would score from Arango and Cifuentes to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. So the former Quakes player come back to haunt his old team. I mean, even though Danny Maswatsky really didn't get a lot of minutes for the Quakes, I will always remember as a guy that is another player that was a huge mistake that the Quakes let them go a couple of years ago. And you can pretty much tell that he was definitely motivated in this game, because anytime when you're a player and you're basically playing against a team that basically rejected you, it does give that extra motivation that you want to score against them. And that's exactly what Maswatsky did to give LAFC the 1-0 lead. And LAFC was definitely on the front foot early, and I thought the Quakes were off to not only a slow start, but they looked like they were unprepared coming into this game in the first couple of minutes. 4th minute in the game, Murillo heads it wide, and the Quakes, I did think that they eventually did kind of start to come back into this game after they kind of weathered the storm early from LAFC, but the final ball was just so poor for them, and it's just been the case most of this season. Rango then tried to curl one in, but that one goes high. Before the Quakes looked like they got the equalizer when Ibovasi actually went through on goal and tried to slot it under Blackman. And even though Blackman kind of got a hand to that one, that was still trickling toward goal. But Kim Moon Kwan was just in the right place at the right time to clear Ibovasi shots off the line. And that was huge because just 3 minutes later, a penalty was given to LAFC after Jackson Yo brought down Arango, and there was no doubt that was a penalty. Like, it was pretty clear that Yo made a clumsy challenge on Arango, and LAFC had a chance to double their lead in from the spot, and they would do so, as Arango would puts it away to give LAFC a 2-0 lead, and that's when I wrote, this is going to be a long day for the Quakes, as the defense basically was just non-existent in this first half. Like, they was just allowing so much space for LAFC to operate, and when you are definitely going to be in trouble in the end. Although Jackson Yu in the 35th minute did blast a long-range effort that goes into the 3-2-5-2 before Maswowski looking to try to score against his former team again as he goes through on goal, but he hits it straight to JT Marcinkowski. There was some bickering between Almeida and Bob Bradley on the sideline. Almost said Michael Bradley for a second. But yeah, they show on the Twitter stream that both of these head coaches was kind of bickering against each other, and I'm pretty sure they weren't talking about what exactly the halftime tactics is going to be for both teams coming out of the second half. But speaking of the second half, as we head to halftime with LAFC leading 2-0, I thought in the beginning of the second half, LAFC once again was in control, and the Quakes just, they just cannot get any possession, cannot get a foothold into the game. And this is when Almeida kind of decided to switch things up, and we've seen this before with Almeida, decided to go with a bit of a line change to hope to maybe spark the team. Most of the time it kind of doesn't work, but in this game it kind of worked out, because when he gone with the line change where he brought on Rios, Wando, and Cal and basically was going for it, this immediately made an impact in this game for the Quakes, because they were started to be much sharper on the attack, and it almost felt like LAFC was not prepared for this, because in the 56th minute, Blackman was able to deny Cal, as Cal almost scored just 1 minute coming off the bench. Skyhand then tagged a volley that goes high in the 57th minute, and the momentum was definitely with the Quakes ever since that line change. Blackman then denied Rios from close range before in the 62nd minute, the Quakes got themselves back in the game. It's Carlos Fierro scoring from Rios and Chofis to make it 2-1, and you're just thinking, well, this definitely has now worked out, and it seems like maybe the Quakes can get themselves the equalizer and come back from a 2-0 deficit. Though in the 71st minute, Safuntes did puts it over from about 6 yards out, and yeah, Sifu would definitely want to have that one back, because that was literally on the plate for him, and he just missed a sitter there. Wando looked to try to make him pay just 2 minutes later, but he puts it wide from long range. And despite the fact that the pressure that the Quakes were putting in, it looked like LAFC was able to just weather the storm and able to just give up the one goal yet, because I thought LAFC kind of started to control the game and after when the 70th minute pass in this one, Blackman then denied Skyham from long range in the 82nd minute before Blackman was able to deny Cal from long range. I thought this was the best game that Blackman had for LAFC, and it was definitely some criticism in the LAFC fan base about the fact that they don't think Blackman is the right choice, and they want Thomas Romero back in this stake. And I feel like it was kind of maybe a little bit harsh to kind of just criticize Blackman, because in the last start, even though he didn't look that well, it was only his first start for LAFC, and it's gonna take time for him to kind of get used to it in the league. And I know for goalkeeper you might think that shouldn't be the case, but it's a new setting for this young goalkeeper in an unfamiliar setting, and it's not going to be easy to kind of just adapt in the first game, and I thought in this one he definitely done much better. But as we wind down the last couple of minutes, the Quakes was definitely pushing for the late equalizer, but then in the 88th minute, that's when the dagger happened, as Arango would score from Rodriguez and Cristomo to make it 3-1 in favor of LAFC, and that would be the final score of this game. And by the way, that goal was basically the Quakes kind of got caught putting too many men forward, and when you put too many men forward, you're going to expose yourself at the back, and LAFC basically took advantage of that in scoring the third goal. And like I said, that was the final score of this game with LAFC winning 3-1 against the Quakes. As the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 15 that the Quakes had, 5 shots on goal compared to 7 that the Quakes had, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that the Quakes had, no shots that was blocked compared to 4 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 37% possession compared to 63% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And with this vital win, I believe LAFC are only, I think, 5 points off the playoff line right now, but they're obviously still in it. Whereas for the Quakes, yeah, they're done. They are not going to make the playoffs this season. Like, their playoff hope was already slimming coming into this game, and you just feel like this is an absolute must-win for them. Not only the fact that they didn't get a win in this game, but they didn't even get a draw, and now they're 8 points back with 5 games to go. And knowing this team in their past history, yeah, this team is not going to make it to the playoffs. And there's also kind of asked question about in the offseason where, again, something's got to change. And, I've never been on that Almeida out kind of bandwagon yet, but, I'm kind of getting close in terms of it. And I'm not going to completely blame Almeida for this game. I thought, he did make the right decision in terms of making those line change, and for once it kind of works. But one of the line change and one of the player that he brought in was Andy Rios. And I've talked about so many times where, for some reason, the door open again there. I guess I'll just leave the door open like that. But for some reason, whenever Andy Rios is in this game, and I just don't know why Almeida keep bringing Rios, even though he's just completely useless and he pretty much is a passenger every single game. It always felt like the Quakes are just playing with 10 men, and I know that he want to kind of keep him on because he tends to like him to be there, but again, there's just time after time. Quakes fans have to kind of tell Almeida that it's pointless to bring Rios in the game, and yet he still brings him on. And I wonder if that's gonna be one of the reasons why he's gonna get fired, because there's an old saying, there's a definition of insanity when you try to do something over and over again, even though it's not working, and it just feels like this is just the definition of insanity with what Almeida is doing. Keep bringing Rios off the bench, even though it just does not work at all. But either way, moving on into the next game. And the next game is going to be Columbus versus Inter Miami in another game that was kind of a playoff six-pointer in the Eastern Conference, and in a game where the loser really looked like their playoff hope is pretty much gone out the window. And in this game, it was Miami. Playoff chances pretty much gone up in flames in this one. And for Miami, they look like they're a team from the beginning of the season with the way that how things have gone. And in this game, they just, it kind of started promising for them in the beginning, and then, things kind of gone a turn for the worse at the end of the first half, and they just kind of never recover from it. But in the first half, just 1 minute in, Hairston did hit it high from close range as Columbus almost scored from the opening whistle, before Rome had an incredible double save, robbing both Higuain and Breck Shave there. And I thought Miami was definitely in control early in this game, but then Santos heads it high from the corner in the 12th minute, before Guideri puts it wide on the volley. And so far, at least, even with Miami kind of gotten the control of this game, Columbus had some opportunity, and I thought it was kind of a very evenly matched so far in the first 21 minute. Etienne hits the side netting at the half-hour mark before, in the 37th minute, Columbus gets the opening goal, and it's Jarzy Zardes scoring from Santos and Nagbe to give Columbus a 1-0 lead. And if Zardes is started to score again for Columbus, this has got to be good news for a Crew fan, because he's been a guy that this season he has really struggled in terms of putting the ball into the back net, although he has started to find that habit again. And if Zardes can continue to get going, and in this game he was able to get a brace, this could once again be that Columbus attack that throughout the season it's been a huge disappointment with how this attack not being as lethal as last year. But with the way that they're starting to get going again, this is definitely good news if you are a Crew fan, and just in time for a late playoff push that they have. But in the 41st minute, Columbus would double their lead as Santos would score from Nagbe to give the Crew a 2-0 lead. But this was just a WTF turnover from Miami, giving the ball in their own half and allow Crew to basically attack from a short field, and they took advantage of that to give the 2-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline as we head into the second half. Now, in the second half, there was a shout for a penalty from the Columbus fans, but it was not given. But it was pretty clear that early on, Columbus was in control, and they were trying to push for the third goal. Santos hits one straight to Marsman before in the 64th minute. They would get that third goal. It's Zardes scoring from Santos and Wormgård to make it 3-0 in favor of Columbus. There was definitely some good moment happened in the 68th minute when the Columbus crowd was chanting Federico Higuain name as he, of course, was come on for his brother. It's always great to see that because, Federico Higuain means so much to this Crew fan base, and he pretty much made himself a legend with this team throughout his time in MLS, and it's definitely a great tribute to see the fans haven't forgot him and kind of chanted his name. But in the 76th minute, Williams almost made it 4-0 as he struck the post from the back post. I mean, anytime when I say that, it sounds like almost a bit of a tongue twister. But yeah, he basically had a big opportunity in the back post, and in some way you would definitely want to have this one back with the way that he was just wide open in the back post, but unfortunately hits it off the post there. But nevertheless, Columbus was able to find the fourth goal, and the fourth goal come courtesy of an own goal from Leandro Gonzalez Perez, and yeah, I mean, he basically just kind of redirected toward his own goal, and not only redirected toward his own goal, but he basically nutmegged his goalkeeper as he redirected that one toward his own goal, and that kind of just sums up Miami's season this year. As after this 4-0 loss that they suffer against Columbus, like I said, yeah, they're pretty much done this season. Like, I just don't think they're gonna make up 9 points in a span of these last 5 games that they had. But for the Crew, they're definitely back into this playoff hunt with the way that they're only 4 points back, and although they still need a lot of help in terms of teams in front of them, getting another win and started to look like that the Crew team that was a defending champion of last season. It has to be good news for their fans, and for them to try to avoid to be one of those MLS teams that are the defending champ and miss the playoffs in the very next season. But the shots in this game are 15 shots compared to 7 that Miami has, 5 shots on goal compared to 1 that Miami has, 4 shots off target for both of these teams, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Miami has in this game. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, and this is when we get to the most controversial game of last night's action between FC Cincinnati versus Orlando City. And, in the end, Orlando did get the 1-0 win, but in many ways, Cincinnati fans have every right to be angry about this game. And in some way, in a year of misery for Cincinnati, I guess getting robbed at the end by the referee and getting robbed by VAR as the latest list in terms of the misery that FC Cincinnati fans have to suffer, because, yeah, we'll definitely get to talk about that call in the end. And also a bit of a controversial call that kind of gone against Orlando late in the game too, and yeah, we'll get to both of that in a minute. But early on in this game, DK did try to hit one in the 4th minute, but he hits it high from close range before they would get themselves the opening and what turns out to be the winning goal in this game, as Junior Urso would score from Kwan to give Orlando City a 1-0 lead. And early on it looked like, yeah, this could potentially get ugly for Cincinnati with the way that they give up early goals. And anytime when we see them give up early goals, and especially against a good team, usually there probably is going to be a crooked number at the end of the game. But that was not the case, because just 24 minutes in, Galese had to rob actually not Medunian, but Jeff Cameron from 2 yards out. I actually originally thought that it was Harris Medunian, but I crossed out and basically put Jeff Cameron there. And yeah, that was just an incredible save from Galese, because Cameron was literally right there. He basically looked like he thought he got a goal, and Galese, which is some cat-like reflexes to keep that one out and preserve his team a 1-0 lead. Before 3 minutes later, DK did puts it wide, though the flag of course went up, so even if he puts that one in, it wouldn't have counted. Then Galese grabbed his hamstring in the 32nd minute, and this was kind of where it was a little bit of a concern if you're an Orlando City fan, seeing Galese grab his hamstring, and the trainer kind of comes out. And when I saw that, I thought Galese was going to come off. I mean, in fact, they even had the backup goalkeeper started hard, ready to warm up and come in for Galese. But surprisingly, Galese actually stayed in this game, and I thought maybe he was staying in this game for a bit to kind of test that out. No, he stayed for the entire part of this game, and that's kind of one of the rare time I've seen a goalkeeper kind of grab his hamstring, and especially it's this early into the game and still were able to kind of continue throughout the entire game, because anytime when you see a player grab his hamstring, you know that they probably need a substitution. But in the 39th minute, Nani did curl one that goes high from 17 yards out before there was a shout for a penalty for Cincinnati that was not given in the 42nd minute. Nani then had a header that was clear off the line by Blackett, so Orlando was definitely pushing to try to get that second goal. Pereira had a chance from close range, but he puts that one over, and like I said, Orlando was pushing for the second, but we do head to halftime with Orlando leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Brenier looked like he scored the equalizer for Cincinnati, but the goal was disallowed. I believe it was actually a foul that was in the box, and I think it was Brenier the one that basically did the foul there, because I didn't think that there was actually an offside there, but nevertheless the goal of course was disallowed. But Cincinnati was definitely started to try to push for the equalizer after that goal was disallowed. Urso did puts it over the bar in the 61st minute before Brenner heads it straight to Marsman in the 66th minute. And then in the 74th minute, there was another huge shout for a penalty kick as the 25,000 inside TKO Stadium think that Brenner was brought down in the box. Well, I'm kind of a little bit over-exaggerating that there was 25,000 fans there. There was probably maybe about 18,000 or 19,000 in the stands. There was definitely notably empty seats in that stadium, but I don't blame. I mean, in fact, I actually think that, for a team that is dead last in the league and a team that has just given so much pain to their fan base, it was kind of quite surprised that stadium was still filled pretty well, and that's got to be a credit to FC Cincinnati fans. Even with the tough time they've been doing this season, they're still enduring and still believing in the team, and it's just that kind of is an example of why you can tell that this fan base is not fake whatsoever. Like, no fan base that should be called fake if they are able to show up game in and game out, even though when their team is not doing well. And I got to credit to this FC Cincinnati fans still having faith of their team, despite the fact they look like they're on verge of winning the third wooden spoon in a row and become the first team to do so. But in the 77th minute, Titan did rob Michel from close range before accidentally struck the post on an absolute rocket. Now, this is also where the other controversy, and kind of almost a forgotten controversial call, because everybody was talking about the penalty at the end of the game, but this definitely looked like when this ball kind of struck the post and it kind of went down, it looked like it actually crossed the line. And there was, I think, one camera angle where this camera angle was kind of I don't know how to describe it, but this camera angle was like putting in the net, and it was kind of facing the back of the goalkeeper. And when I saw that camera angle, it definitely looked like that ball actually crossed the line. Now, they didn't go to VAR in terms of it, and in some way they should have gone to VAR to look at this, because this definitely looked like closer than I originally thought. And I actually had to go back to the highlights to see this, because on real time they didn't really kind of show a good highlight on the FC Cincinnati feed of the fact that ball crossed the line. But when I look on the replay, yeah, it definitely looked like that ball might have crossed the line. Though I would also say maybe, with the way that MLS doesn't have goal line technology and they have to rely on those angle, I can maybe also understand why maybe they won't call it back, even though they go to VAR and call that a goal, because again, you need to have some definitive evidence that ball crossed the line. But that was definitely a moment that Orlando City fans was kind of a little bit up in arms and think that should have been the second goal, and the ball crossed the line when that ball bounced off the post. But I also thought that all of a sudden, Orlando, they were looking to try to finish this game early, because Cincinnati was having the momentum, but then Orlando kind of grabbed it back and looked for that third goal. And then that's when we get to the most controversial call of the game, and the call that pretty much have a lot of Cincinnati fans upset. And again, I don't blame them, because first of all, the call in the end was there was no penalty for Cincinnati after VAR deemed that Schlegel brought down Acosta in the box. And by the way, I even put like a question mark and an exclamation mark next to that because I could not believe the fact that that was not a penalty. Like, Schlegel clearly clotheslined Acosta there in the box, and when you clothesline someone in the box, that's a penalty. Like, that's a penalty every single time. And the fact that, I thought originally when they go to VAR, they're probably going to kind of reverse it, but the fact that they didn't, yeah, I mean, I was absolutely stunned by this. And again, Cincinnati fans have every right to be angry about that because that is a penalty. And I know maybe some Orlando City fans will kind of argue, well, that's kind of like a make-up call for that goal that should have been counted just a couple of minutes ago. But at the end of the day, I said this before. Anytime when there is a decision in the game, especially late in this game, that has gone wrong, it does create a little bit of a dark cloud after this game, and it just kind of creates the frustration with even the average MLS fan like myself, where imagine if this happened in the playoffs. Like I said this before, imagine if we have a controversial call in the playoffs or even in MLS Cup. How much that is going to be talked about throughout the years. And even though I know this probably will be forgotten probably by next week, this is a thing that could happen in the playoffs. And at the end of the day, I feel like, I said this many times, I'm going to say again, Pro needs to do better in terms of that. Because that is just, that I don't know how that is not a penalty. Like, that's maybe something I can see in the CONCACAF Champions League and not a call, and I'll just kind of laugh it off. But with the way that I've seen this and how Pro just kind of self-claim that they should, they are doing what it's right, that is definitely not an example of that. But nevertheless, despite the controversy, Orlando was able to hold on to win 1-0 in this one, as the shots in this game, 9 shots on goal compared to 18 that Orlando City has. Oh, by the way, I accidentally wrote the possession in terms of the shot, and actually it's actually wrong. It's not 52%. It's actually, I believe, 13 shots on goal 9 shots on goal compared to 18 that FC Cincinnati has. Or no, actually, I'm probably gonna have to go back in terms of the stats of this game, or maybe I actually won't do it because if I go back, it's this thing, it usually takes a long time to kind of load this. But at the end of the day, I think nobody would really kind of care about the stats, but other talk about that controversial call. That it's just such a shame that of course is the case. And the only good thing that comes out in this game is that at least this is not a thing that happened in the playoffs, or even a game that could really decide playoff seeding. But I can also understand why some Eastern Conference team are kind of got mad that Orlando got really lucky to get all 3 points in this one. But moving on from that controversial game to now talking about the next game. And again, this is not in order, and these are pretty much all the games that I was able to watch yesterday. And one of them is Austin versus Minnesota. And I don't know how I feel about this victory. And it's kind of weird for me to say this, because anytime when my team win, I should be happy. But for me, in some way, I'm kind of a little bit disappointed. I mean, I think maybe that's kind of harsh to say, but when you look at how Minnesota play in this game, it was exactly the same way they play in this game, like they did against Colorado. And the only reason why they weren't being punished like they did against the Rapids is because Austin just have been having so much problem in terms of finishing their chances this season, and this is just another example of that in this game. But in the 3rd minute, Dominguez did put one straight to Tyler Miller from 25 yards out, and I immediately wrote, yep, that's another slow start for the Loons on the road, which is pretty typical because this season they have always look slow coming out of the gate whenever they play on the road. In the 10th minute, Miller was able to rob Gite from close range before Jerussi just puts it wide from long range. And early on, I thought Austin was all over Minnesota, and this is where I started to got very concerned and also kind of feel like, it just feels like, with what happened in that game against Colorado last week, it has really took the soul of this team, and this team looked like they have just completely checked out. But that being said, just 1 minute after I wrote Austin was all over Minnesota, the Loons actually had their first opportunity, and it was a really good one because Fragapane had a good chance from close range, but Stuver was able to rob him there. But then 4 minutes later, Fragapane would get on the score sheet as he would score from Dotson to make it 1-0 in favor of Minnesota. And in some way you could say that was kind of against the run of play because Austin had a lot of the opportunity, and that the Loons had that one opportunity that was a decent save from Stuver. But overall, the play, I thought it was kind of against the run of plays in this one. But Minnesota takes the 1-0 lead. Though in the 32nd minute, Pochettino did puts it wide from close range, and I also kind of thought that there was not enough closing down from the Loons defense. Like, that's just one thing about Austin, is that they love to shoot from outside the range, and then when you don't close those players down, they are not going to be hesitate to take a shot from outside the range. And there were a couple ones that was very close to hitting the back of the net. But in the 38th minute, Alonso had a big opportunity from 15 yards out, but he puts that one high. And I know Ozzy Alonso is not a natural goal scorer, but that is one that he definitely would love to have it back, because he was just wide open at the top of the arc and he just could not put it on target before Pochettino puts it wide from close range in the 43rd minute, and we do head to halftime with the Loons leading 1-0 against Austin FC. But in the second half, this is when Austin really took over the game. Komanich did put it wide from close range in the 51st minute as Austin was trying to push for the equalizer, and that for the Loons, they were doing their typical go thing, and kind of typical of Adrian Heath, decided to just drop their lines and try to hold on to this 1-0 lead. Miller had to deny Gite from 18 yards out in the 71st minute before Dominguez missed wide from close range, and at this point I also wrote that the Loons are in full park the bus motion, and I also kind of wrote this is not going to end well, because again, this is very similar to what they did against Colorado, where they just kind of parked the bus late in the game hoping to get the 1-0 victory, and they were basically made pay for that. But again, with Austin, because of the fact that they're a team that have had a lot of problems in terms of finishing, they kind of got away with it a little bit. But in the 87th minute, they had an opportunity to make it 2-0, and they should have made it 2-0 because Fragapane was basically right there in the back post after Finley make a good run, and he basically puts it on a platter for Fragapane, who, I mean, yeah, he's got to put that one away. And I thought that chance that Fragapane missed, yeah, that one is definitely going to come back to haunt Minnesota. But there was some scrappiness that was happening for both teams late in this game. Before, in the 4th minute of stoppage time, Jerussi just missed high on a free header, and I thought that was the moment when Austin gets the equalizer. But in the end, the Loons, despite the fact that they were kind of playing the same way that they did against Colorado and suffer a loss in this one, they got away with it in this one by getting the win. As the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 12 that Minnesota has, 8 shots on goal compared to 3 that Minnesota has, 9 shots off target compared to 6 that Minnesota has, 2 shots off blocked compared to 3 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And like I said, I don't know how I feel about this win. I mean, on one hand, they get a win and they bounce back after that tough resort against Colorado, but at the same time, they cannot keep playing like this and expect to get wins like this. I mean, this is just something that if you're gonna consider yourself a playoff team and an MLS Cup contender, you cannot just go on the row and play against a last place team like that. And I understand Austin have a bit of a resurgence lately at home, but the way that the Loons was just kind of like just almost asking for themselves to drop all 3 points and soaking up all that pressure late in the game, yeah, it's just not a recipe of success, and I've seen it before, and this is one of the rare times that I think they got away with one there, and now I think Adrian Heath is basically going to say, look, I told you, prove you all wrong. The fact that, my parking the bus tactics late in the game and trying to hold on actually does work out at the end of the game, when I'm basically just going to kind of argue, yes, it worked this time, but you do know that you're playing against Los Verde, which is a team that basically is struggling to score goals throughout the entire part of the season. And if you play against a better team, yeah, you are definitely going to be punished. But either way, moving on in terms of the next match. is going to be the Galaxy and the Timbers, and boy, do the Galaxy needed this win and finally ended that 9-game winless run. I mean, after seeing how Minnesota, and also as I'll talk about a little bit later with RSL getting the win in the Rocky Mountain Cup, the Galaxy needed to win this one if they want to keep pace with those teams, and they did exactly that by winning 2-1 against the Portland Timbers. Now, early on, the Galaxy, I thought they were definitely on the front foot, and Steve Clark had to make a save early in the 7th minute as he denied Chicharito from close range. I still feel like Chicharito is still not really back to his best as we saw in the beginning of the season, because there was definitely times where he had some golden opportunity to score in this game. And, even though he did get on the score sheet in this one, and I'll talk about how it was kind of more of a mistake from the Timbers rather than him able to score a tap in like he usually does. But yeah, I mean, I thought Chicharito, he still kind of looked a little bit off in this game, but that being said, he did get on the score sheet, and I think Galaxy fans will basically kind of make that as an argument about the fact that, yeah, you say he's struggling, but he's still scoring goals, so that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But in the 17th minute, Depew did try to stab one in from close range, but it goes wide before Jonathan Bond was able to deny Zuberic on the free header, as I thought that was the first chance that the Timbers had. I mean, the Timbers was under siege for the first 20 minutes in this game, and they would continue to do so in the 22nd minute as Clark was able to deny Revolson, as it was kind of a shout for a penalty from the Galaxy as Revolson basically hits that one, but it wasn't given. Chicharito then had a shot that was deflected, but it goes wide, and the Galaxy was definitely pressing for the opener of this game. Araujo had a chance in the 35th minute, but he puts it wide after there was also another shout for a penalty from the Galaxy. This time was a handball, but it wasn't given by the referee. And despite the fact that the Galaxy had a lot of opportunity in the first half, we head to halftime scoreless in this game. Now in the second half, Clark was able to deny Cabral, and actually, that as he of course made this save, it actually kind of come right back to Cabral, who had a second bite of the cherry, but he puts that one wide. And I also wrote the Galaxy was already pushing for the opener, and you can definitely see they were definitely playing with some desperation coming into this game. Chicharito then hits one straight to Clark in the 54th minute before Paredes flashed one wide from long range for the Timbers in the 56th minute. Then Jimmy Chara thought that he was able to score a goal against the run of plays for the Timbers, but that goal, of course, was disallowed for offside. But that was kind of a bit of a warning sign for the Galaxy of the fact that, yes, they've been the better team in this one, but if you just allowed the Timbers to have some opportunity to score, they will definitely put the ball into the back net and can score against the run of plays. And we've seen so many times when teams wasted their opportunity and then the other team had one opportunity and they put into the back of the net, it can be really disheartening for the team that is dominating the game. But nevertheless, it seems like they kind of get that memo, because just 1 minute after I wrote that note, the Galaxy finally gets the opening goal, and it's Chicharito, the one that scores from Vasquez. But like I said before, this was more of a mistake from the Timbers more than Chicharito, of course, scoring a great goal, because this ball was coming into the box, and there was actually two Timbers players that could have cleared this one away, and you could argue Mabiala is the one that I think he tried to clear it away, and he just kind of completely whiffs at that one, and it just goes right to Chicharito in the back post that say, thank you very much, I'm just going to tap this one into the back of the net and give the Galaxy a 1-0 lead. Now, 5 minutes later, Grandsir did try to make it 2-0, but he hits this one straight to Clark. Before in the 72nd minute, the Timbers equalize. It's Blanco that scored for Moreno to make it get 1-1 in this game, and that was a Randall Leal goal. I mean, Blanco basically tried to cross this one, and he kind of overhits this cross a little bit, but we've seen this before, where when you try to hit the cross, sometimes maybe you can catch the goalkeeper off guard, and it definitely caught Bond off guard, as that one kind of goes over his head and goes into the back of the net. And for those that wonder why I always call this a Randall Leal goal, Randall Leal was the first one that was able to score that kind of goal in the season, and that's why he, of course, gets this name. I guess next season I'll probably change it a little bit, and that whoever scored that kind of goal, they'll get the recognition of that. But nevertheless, the game was all tied up at one apiece, and this is again what I fear about the Galaxy, of the fact that, when you don't put away your opportunity, you're definitely going to get punished by this Timbers attack that has been on fire lately. Now, there was definitely some tempers flare in the 80th minute, as Williams and Blancos definitely had some choice words for each other, and this is not a big surprise, because neither of these teams like each other, and especially with the way that Derek Williams was on this pitch, I just had a feeling that there was going to be some spark up between him and a Timbers player, because of what happened in the beginning of the season, of how Williams basically took Polo out and basically just not only broke his leg, but pretty much also torn his Achilles on a really rough challenge. And the Timbers definitely have not forgotten about that, and certainly Sebastian Blanco definitely did not forget about that. And something tells me some of those choice words has something to do with what happened earlier this season. But that being said, in the 86th minute, Blanco almost made it 2-1 for the Timbers, as he struck the post from long range. And that also turns out to be crucial late in this game, because in the first minute of stoppage time, just as we thought that maybe this game is going to end 1-1, there was a penalty that was given to the Galaxy, as Van Raken brought down Alvarez from the spot, which Sasha Kleshin was able to step up to score that penalty. And yeah, the Galaxy was able to win 2-1 in this game and get a much needed win in this one to finally end the 9-game winless run, as the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 10 that the Timbers had, 9 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Timbers had, 6 shots off target compared to 3 that the Timbers had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And yeah, for the Timbers, they'll be very disappointed with this result. I mean, they kind of come out a little bit flat in this game, but at the same time, they did also had a couple of opportunities to kind of steal this one away from the Galaxy. And for the Galaxy, it wasn't pretty in this one, and they kind of had to make to work to get the victory. But they just desperately needed this one to finally end that free fall that they're going. And let's see whether or not, if this victory can get themselves back on track, and hope to get a couple of wins so that they can stay above the red line in the Western Conference. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 5 games that happened in terms of the Saturday night action. Alright, so now we are going to get to the 5 games that I did not watch yesterday, and you'll definitely notice that I did not watch these games, because anytime when some of these games that I review that is like 5 minutes apart, you probably know that I did not watch the game, because the notes that I've talked about is going to be relatively short. And also, these are the games that I, of course, watched the condensed highlights on the league website, or the highlights from the league's official YouTube channel. And how I spent 47 minutes talking about the first 6 games of the 11-game action. I promise you guys, it will not be 47 minutes when I talk about these 5 games. That is pretty much going to finish off of the 11-game review from yesterday's action. So we left off with Toronto taking on Atlanta United, and for Atlanta, it's a big win to get a 2-0 win against a TFC side that, as I mentioned before, they're kind of been having a bit of a resurgence lately. And unfortunately, since they're kind of having a resurgence this late into the season, it was kind of already too late for them to potentially come back into the playoff picture, and this one pretty much solidified of that. In fact, I think this is also the game when TFC officially eliminated from playoff contention, which, by the way, I need to start kind of looking at the playoff contention and also elimination kind of article that the league basically puts out of who can basically clinch to the playoffs and who can eliminate, because I didn't actually look at that article before I did this review, and I probably should have done to know that some of these teams have already clinched the playoffs. But in the first half, in terms of this game between TFC and Atlanta, it was actually TFC the one that got off to a good start in this one, as Osorio came so close of giving TFC the lead 4 minutes in, but he struck the post from long range. I wrote TFC was lively early in this game. Osorio then had another opportunity, but he flashed that one wide from long range. Then Marcelino Moreno had the first real opportunity for Atlanta, but he puts it wide from 10 yards out. And, I also wrote that was kind of the first chance that Atlanta has, as TFC was definitely up for this game and looked like they were once again going to play that spoiler role, which, with their recent resurgence, it's almost like they love to play that spoiler role to spoil some of these teams' chances of making the playoffs. Then in the 25th minute, Bono was able to deny Barco on the free kick before he denied Sosa from long range. I don't know why I can't get that name right. It's actually pretty easy to pronounce. And also, this came off of an incredible play where not only he denied Sosa from long range, but there was a second attempt when Bello basically had a shot that was deflected on the post. And then there was even a third opportunity where Moreno basically hits that one into Rosette. I mean, that was just an incredible sequence of play. Although, I think there's other games that we're going to talk about that also had a very, very incredible sequence of play, but that was just one of those where it's very rare that you see a team on the same sequence get free bite of the cherry to potentially put the ball into the back of the net. But there was no doubt that it was now Atlanta the one that looked to try to push for the go-ahead goal, and they would get it right on the stroke of halftime, as Araujo would score from Bello and Barco to give Atlanta the 1-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into halftime. So we go to the second half, and in the second half, Marcelino Moreno looked to get on the score sheet as he crossed one wide. Let's see, did he get on the score sheet? Yes, he did. I thought Marcelino Moreno played very well in this game and deservedly be on the score sheet. But in the 54th minute, Bono did deny Moreno as Atlanta once again was trying to press for that second goal. And then there was kind of some tempers flare that happened in this game after Barco basically kind of took a dive and basically tried to draw a foul on Aro. And what's kind of got maybe TFC mad about this is not just the fact that Barco basically went down on the ground too easily and Aro basically took offense to that, but he literally did that in the middle of the field. Like, yeah, you don't need to do that in the middle of the field. Like, if you do it in the penalty box, then maybe that's understandable because you're trying to draw a penalty, but you did it literally in the midfield. Like, that doesn't really give you any advantage, and again, it kind of started off a bit of a scuffle. And also during that scuffle, there was actually a red card that was handed out for both of these teams. And I also, as I mentioned, I only watched the highlights of this game, so I couldn't really tell exactly what kind of led to, it was definitely a bit of a scrimmage, but it wasn't really one that I thought that maybe there was going to be some red cards that was handed out, and there was. And in fact, Barco was one of the players that, of course, got sent off. And then there was also another TFC player that, I also forgot to put that on the notes, that he's another player that got sent off in this game. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting situation. And again, it's just one that, yes, tempers did flare, but it wasn't anything different from your normal scuffle, and the referee kind of decided to, maybe he wasn't having none of it, and just kind of decided to not only dish out the cards but also dish out the red cards in terms of this game. And it's also going to be interesting to see as we head into the midweek games in a couple of days whether or not if both of these teams is going to be appealing for the players that got sent off because of that situation. Now, as the time winds down, TFC was definitely pushing for the equalizer. They almost did so in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, but Guzan absolutely robbed Omar Gonzalez, who had a point-blank range from from close range, but Guzan was able to deny him there. And then in the 7th minute of stoppage time, Atlanta was making sure that they were going to get all 3 points. And as I mentioned, Marcelino Moreno, he had a great game in this one, in my opinion. Is probably the man of the match in this one, as he scored here from Franco to pretty much put the dagger in TFC heart. And Atlanta walk away with all 3 points in this one, as the shots in this one, 16 shots compared to 17 that Atlanta has, 4 shots on goal compared to 9 that Atlanta has, 6 shots off target compared to 7 that Atlanta has, 6 shots on block compared to 1 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Atlanta has in this game. And like I said, it's a huge victory for Atlanta, knowing the fact that they are still that team that is kind of on the bubble of the Eastern Conference. And I know they also want to try to charge themselves up the table, but as of now, with the way that they haven't looked as good as they were ever since Pineda was hired as the head coach of Atlanta, and they went on that 4-game winning streak. I think their goal right now is just to try to keep winning games so that they can stay above the red line and maybe even make a late season charge so they can at least maybe get one game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the playoffs. They can potentially get to the top 4, and top 4 is still achievable because that logjam in the Eastern Conference is still relatively tight, and even if you're a team that is still on the bubble, you can win a couple of games in a row and other team lose around you, you can definitely get into that spot where you can at least host one playoff game when the playoffs start next month. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is New England and Chicago. So for New England, wow, this one kind of got away from them. Like, this was a game that when they score that go-ahead goal late in this one, I thought they were going to win this one. And this is a team that is not known to give up late goals, and they did it in this game against Chicago. And I will say that the Fire in this game, they play very well in this one. And that also kind of maybe frustrates a lot of Fire fans because, we've seen this before where they play well not only at home but also on the road, and yet they do it like now when the season is pretty much over, and and in the end, even though they play well, they actually didn't even get all 3 points in this, although they could have easily dropped all 3 points in this if they didn't score a late one in this one. And when you are able to score a late goal against New England, that is kind of an achievement because, like I said, the refs don't give up late goals often. But in the first half, Madron was able to put one straight to Matt Turner. I thought Madron was probably the best player for the Fire in this game. He was very, very active. Bo then hits one straight to Solania in the 12th minute before Turner was able to tip Madron's free kick over the bar, and then Madron had another opportunity as he posed a shot wide from close range, but we had to halftime with this game tie at 0-0. Now in the second half, Solania did deny Jones from close range, and then in the 47th minute, New England took the lead, and it's Captoon, the one that was able to score his first MLS goal, and what a goal this was from Captoon, and certainly a contention for goal of the week. But unfortunately, that lead did not last long because 2 minutes later, I talked about how Alvaro Madron was active for Chicago in this game, and he would get on the score sheet here from Espinoza to tie the game up at 1 apiece. By the way, there was about 28,000 fans that showed up for this game, and while there was still kind of some empty seats at Gillette Stadium, this was probably the most packed I've seen Gillette Stadium all season long, and they were definitely hoping that this was going to be a game where they could get easy 3 points, but like I said, it didn't turn out to be, and when they saw their team go up 1-0, they thought it was going to get ugly too. But like I said, Chicago immediately equalized. Then in the 58th minute, New England tried to take the lead, but Solania was able to deny Buxa. Then Aliseda puts it wide from close range in the 61st minute, and all of a sudden this game was kind of on a bit of a knife edge, and this is also kind of similar to what we saw the last time when both of these teams play against each other at Soldier Field, where it was a relatively tight game, and the Fire actually played a really good game against the refs, but they just kind of let a late goal slip away, and that was also a game when they dropped all 3 points. But in the 76th minute, New England would take that lead back, and it's Gustavo Bo, the one that was able to score from heel, and this was just absolutely filthy. And I would also say that this could be potentially a contention for goal of the week because Bo literally went through on goal, and he basically just chipped the goalkeeper there as he basically went through on goal. And anytime when that happens, yeah, that's just really filthy, and especially with the way that it wasn't like just him chipping the goalkeeper from short range. He basically chipped the goalkeeper for about 19 yards out as he came off his lines. I mean, that is just absolutely filthy of what Gustavo Bo did to the Fire and did to the young goalkeeper from the Fire, that is Solania. But nevertheless, the refs were up 2-1, and you're thinking, yep, the refs should get all 3 points in this game, right? Well, in the 86th minute, it looked like they were going to finish that game off when Solania was able to rob Bo from close range. And then in the 88th minute, Chicago equalized. And it's Aliseda, the one that scores from Gutierrez to make it 2-2 in favor of the Fire, and I thought this was one that maybe Turner should have done better. I mean, I know this was kind of a bit of a low-driven shot, and he was also kind of being screened by one of his defender, but when you are Matt Turner, which is the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team and is probably going to win goalkeeper of the year, yeah, that is one that I think he's definitely going to look back on tape, and he's going to say to himself, yeah, I should have had that, because again, it's one that it's a low driven shot that even if he's screened a little bit, I feel like he should have saved that one. But nevertheless, it was all tied up at 2 apiece, and despite the fact that both of these teams was going for that third goal, it was never meant to be, as in the end, it's a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, and the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 16 that the Fire has, 8 shots on goal for the 5 that the Fire has, 3 shots off target for the 6 that the Fire had, 6 shots that was blocked for that the Fire has, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game, and there's no doubt that, I think the Fire not only will be the happier side coming out of this, but the refs are going to be frustrated because, their chase to trying to catch LAFC in terms of the most points in MLS definitely took a huge dent after this game, and this was really one of the game where I thought it was going to be easy 3 points for this refs team to get themselves even closer into history, but now they took a draw in this game and dropped 2 points in this one. It does make their task a little bit more challenging if they want to potentially chase down LAFC for that record of the most points in a regular season at 72 points. But nevertheless, moving on in terms of the next match is going to be DC versus Nashville, and I swear, Nashville this season, literally almost half of their match this season has to end in draw, right? Like, I think this is, the 15th draw that Nashville has, and I actually don't know what's the record for the most draw in MLS, but Nashville probably is close to reach that, if not have already broken that record for the most draw in an MLS season. And, even though I know Nashville fans will kind of talk about how they still suffer the least loss in MLS this season, the fact that they have drawn so many games, and I've said this before, draws is good if you are playing on the road and you're able to get a point in a game that you're not at your best. But when you are basically keep drawing games, you only get like 1 point. You still, of course, are dropping points against team around you that potentially won and they are able to kind of pass you. And in Nashville case, I think they're kind of fortunate the fact that in this game the Union didn't catch them, because the Union also drew earlier in that game against Montreal. But if the Union would have held on to that game against Montreal, all of a sudden the second position is all tied up. But that being said, going back to this game, this was also kind of one of the draw where I think for Nashville, I think they'll be happy with coming out with a draw, and especially holding this DC team with not scoring a goal. That's something that's been rare to see, that since this DC attack has been just so red hot throughout this entire season, and even when they aren't playing well, they still find a way to score a goal. The fact that they weren't able to find a way to put the ball in the back of the net, it's something that you usually don't see happen often. But in the second minute, they almost find the ball into the back net if it wasn't for the post getting in the way of Roberta's shot from long range. Then Pines heads it straight to Willis in the 6th minute before Willis tipped Gresso shot over the bar. I thought Joe Willis had a good game and was one of the big reasons why Nashville Nashville was able to hold on to a clean sheet in this one. But there was no doubt that DC was kind of controlling this game, and Nashville, they were going with their usual bunker shape early in this one. There was a shout for a penalty in the 24th minute from the DC crowd that was not given. And then Anuga did try to drive one from long range for Nashville. That one goes wide. It really was the first big opportunity that Nashville has in this game, and we had to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, not much happening in the early part of the second half, though Willis absolutely robbed Canals, who had a free header there. And you talk about the goalkeeper of the year, and I'll talk about how a minute ago Matt Turner looks like the one that is going to win it. What about Joe Willis? I mean, he's been having a great season this year, and there's been times where he has made some incredible save to keep his team in the game, and this was one of them where Canals basically hit that header very well, but Willis just able to get enough to palm that one away. But that being said, on the other end, in the 82nd minute, Hamid was able to deny Mukhtar from the near post before Rios puts it wide from 14 yards out in the 88th minute. And late in the game, Nashville actually was the one that was pushing for a winner, despite the fact that I thought in terms of the opportunity, DC had more of them. But in the end, it ends in a scoreless draw between both of these teams. And the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 16 that Nashville has, 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that Nashville has, 3 shots off target compared to 6 that Nashville has, 6 shots off block compared to 5 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Nashville has in this game. And, for DC, they'll definitely be very frustrated about this game with the way that, they weren't able to score in this one, which is a rarity, but also the fact that they're a team that is part of that bubble and part of that logjam in the Eastern Conference, and I believe they're actually tied with Montreal in terms of points. So they're also going to be the biggest Red Bulls fan when the New York Derby is about to start in a bit, and hope that the Red Bulls can beat NYCFC so that both New York team, of course, would stay below the red line. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is probably the biggest surprise of the 11-game Saturday action, which is the Houston Dynamo taking down the top team in the Western Conference by winning 2-1 against the Seattle Sounders. Now, granted, this was a Sounders team that once again wasn't starting their strongest team, and I did look at the Sounders' next game, and it is against the Colorado Rapids on the road, so it's understandable why Brian Schmetzer decided to kind of rest his guys coming into this game against a lowly Dynamo team. And I've said it before, even though when the Sounders still put kind of like their B team in, this is probably the strongest B team in the league, and we've seen in that game against Vancouver, they can definitely have that same quality that their main team usually have. And I thought in this game they were going to once again blow Houston out the window, and it definitely looked like that was the case early on in this game when Montero hits one just high from close range in the 8th minute, and that Seattle was definitely on the front foot. Rodon then kind of slipped there and hit a shot from close range, and I think if he did not slip, he would have put that one into the back of the net. Or actually, I said that happened in the 16th minute. What I mean is that actually happened in the 10th minute, because 4 minutes later, Houston was able to get the lead, and it's Urruti that scored from Quintero, and I even wrote goal of the week with a question mark on this notebook, because wow, that was an amazing goal from Maxi Urruti, and we know he can, of course, score one of these amazing goals before. I mean, we've seen him done it before, but the way that he hit this one, where this ball was coming in, and the fact that he basically hits this one first time, I can't tell you how difficult it is to basically look at the ball and basically just kind of hit this one first time from a long ball that was delivered from Quintero. I mean, that is just an incredible goal, and definitely will get goal of the week contention, although this goal also would maybe have some contest in terms of the goal of the week contention, because I'll talk about a little bit later. There was another goal also that was scored in this game. But 6 minutes later, Houston doubled their lead, and it's Quintero, the one that of course got the assist last time. He wants to get on the score sheet too, and he does in this one as he scored from Dorsey and Urruti to make it 2-0 in favor of the Dynamo. And I actually saw this game while I was watching the game between Minnesota and Austin, and I could not believe that the Sounders was down 2-0 in a game. Like, what is going on? This is the Houston Dynamo we're talking about, a team that is already in see you next season mode, and they are just completely surprising everybody by taking a 2-0 lead against the Sounders. And they could have made it 3-0 just 3 minutes later when Pico went through on goal but hits one straight to Stefan Frime. But then in the 30th minute, Montero hits it high from a 19-yard out free kick, before in the 40th minute, Madrona would get one back for the Seattle Sounders. And you know how I talked about there was a golazo that also scored in this game? This was it. I mean, what a goal this was from Madrona. And we've seen him hit those one before. I mean, he possibly scored the best goal of the season for the Sounders in that game against the Timbers. And while this one is not as impressive as that one that he scored against the Timbers in the Cascadia Derby, it's still an amazing goal that he hits this one from outside the box and just put so much power into that. I mean, Nelson just had no chance in terms of saving that one. And yeah, all of a sudden the Sounders were back into this game, and that would be the scoreline heading into halftime with the Dynamo leading 2-1, and you're just thinking, yep, the Sounders are going to start to come back from this one, right? Well, in the second half, Quintero kind of tried a very unorthodox low overhead kick, and when I say unorthodox, it's almost like he never kind of left his feet when he tried this little overhead kick, but that one struck the post before Junker actually heads it in at the top part of the post here. By the way, it seems like this was a game that not only was a big surprise that Dynamo was able to knock off the Sounders, but this was the game of hitting the post, because I think this game has the most posts hit in a single game this season, and maybe even on record as one of the most hit posts in a single MLS game, because it turns out at the end of this game there was 5 posts that was hit in this one, and the Dynamo hit four of them. And the second one, as I mentioned, was Jungkook basically tried to hit one in, but he hits the top part of the post. And I also kind of wrote, will these missed chances come back to haunt the Dynamo? Because we've seen before, when you're a underdog team and you're facing a superior opponent, you miss this opportunity and you're going to be potentially be paid for. But in the 60th minute, sticking with the post theme, it was Griffin Dorsey, the latest victim, to hit the post there in the 60th minute. Before in the 66th minute, Urruti would be the latest victim as he struck the post for the 4th time in this game. And yeah, I mean it just felt like even though the Dynamo was leading in this game, they has to be feeling like, is this just one of those days where they just the 2 goals that they scored was great, but they just cannot score this crucial 3rd goal, and it's going to come back to haunt them. But in the 76th minute, Nelson was able to deny shoot on the right before João Paulo become the latest victim and the final victim of hitting the post, as he struck the post from 23 yards out. I mean, when he actually hit that one, I thought that was going in, because we know João Paulo can definitely hit those long-range effort, probably the best long-range goal scored in this league. And that one, when he left his foot, it looked like it was going to go in, and it was going to be heartbreak for the Dynamo. But thankfully, the post that has been kind of victimized them throughout this game, we're kind of showing them some mercy and kind of giving them back a little bit by helping them and causing the Sounders and João Paulo to struck the post. But yeah, in the end, the Dynamo was able to hold on to a surprising 2-1 victory. And the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 11 that the Sounders had. Both teams had 3 shots on goal, 8 shots off target for the 7 that the Sounders had, 2 shots off block for the 1 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 42% possession compared to 58% possession that the Sounders has in this game. And, for the Sounders, they'll definitely be a little bit frustrating with this result. I mean, I know they weren't playing their strongest team, but we've seen this season, even when they are not playing their strongest team, and especially how they are the best team this season on the road, you expect they should get all 3 points in this game against a lowly Dynamo team. And also with this loss, you know who's going to be happy about this result? Sporting KC fans, because now that window is starting to open again in terms of getting that top spot. And I talk about this season of how important it is to get the top 4 spot, because at least you get to host one home game in the playoffs. Well, it is very important itself to get the top spot in each of the conference, because that's the spot where you don't have to play in the first round and you get a bye heading into the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see as the season winds down who exactly is going to get that Western Conference title, and we'll see whether or not if the Sounders can hold on, or will SKC find a way to overtake them at the end of the season. But that being said, now moving on into the last game on this board, and that of course is the Rocky Mountain Cup, which in the end it kind of ended the way that you expected, which is RSL getting the win against the Colorado Rapids. And I think for the Rapids, if there's one team they do not want to see in the postseason, it's Real Salt Lake, and especially on the road, because I talked about before, there's just something about the Rapids and how Rio Tinto Stadium is just a house of horror for them. And besides that outlier where they won 5-0, I think last season, they have just not done well whenever they play RSL on the road, and this was another example of it. And in the 12th minute, it would be RSL getting the opening goal, as Damir Krylak would score from Herrera and Rusnak. They mentioned on the RSL feed, Krylak actually have now now got a new record for RSL of scoring the most consecutive goal or scoring a goal in consecutive game, as this is his 5th consecutive game that Damir Kreilach has scored, and Kreilach has started to really look like his old self after a very disappointing season last year, and when he's looking like his old self, that has to be great news for this RSL team. That, I forgot to mention how this RSL attack, it's started to quietly become one of the most underrated attack in the league, because with Damir Kreilach getting back to his old form and banging goals pretty much every single game. And then you also got a guy called Rubio Rubin, a guy that I mentioned is probably one of the most underrated player, and a guy that just kind of came out of nowhere to become a star to this team. And not to mention Alper Rusnak also started to contribute in the assist department. All of a sudden, this attack can really be decent. And I didn't even forget about Anderson Julio, who can also be very dangerous and use his speed to kind of burn defense. But nevertheless, going back to this one, in the 13th minute, the Rapids almost equalized as Bassett hits one straight to Ochoa after a giveaway in the own half for RSL. So RSL almost made a schoolboy error of scoring a goal, and you're always the most vulnerable when you score a goal, and they almost made a mistake in terms of that. Though there wasn't really much opportunity in the first 20 minutes besides that goal and the chance that I talked about with Bassett a moment ago. Boubacar did have a chance in the 25th minute, but his shot took a deflection that goes wide. And yeah, we do head to halftime with RSL taking a 1-0 lead. Now, it was almost 2-0 heading into the second half right away, as Yarbrough was able to deny Ruiz from long range just 1 minute in. I mean, if Ruiz scores that would definitely be in contention for goal of the week. The way that he hits that one so nicely, and the fact that William Yarbrough was able to get to that one, yeah, I mean, it was a great strike, but equally an incredible save from Yarbrough to go full stretch to kind of palm this one away. But there was no doubt that RSL was on the front foot again heading into the second half, and they would capitalize that by scoring the second goal. And it's Rubio Rubin who scores from Kreilach to make it 2-0 in favor of RSL. Then Barrios struck the post, and then there was kind of a little bit of a scramble in the box in the 71st minute, which ends up with Rosenberry puts that one wide from long range. And that was also a very nice sequence where, once Barrios hits that post, there was just a scramble in the box for the Rapids to try to get one back, and they almost did so there before Lewis becomes the latest victim of striking the post in the 73rd minute. And the Rapids are starting to kind of feel like maybe the Dynamo from the last game I talked about, where is this just one of those games where we're just only going to hit posts? And unlike how the Dynamo at least have the luxury of being 2-0 up, the Rapids were 2-0 down in this game. But as soon as I wrote that, they actually would get themselves a goal back, as Nominally would be the one that scored to get the Rapids back into this game. And it was kind of also a bit of a fortunate goal, because this one took a wicked deflection off of Kreilach's back and redirect to our goal. But I guess with the Rapids hitting the post so many times, it's only fair for them to finally get a small fortune there to get themselves back into this game. But in the 84th minute, RSL almost restored that 2-goal lead, as the post was able to deny Rusnak on the near post. I even kind of wrote, this game has really started giving Seattle and Houston game a run for the money in terms of who which game can have the most posts hit, because I think that's now 3 posts that's been hit in this one. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Julio tried to finish it for RSL as he actually rounds Yarbrough, but unfortunately Estevez was in the right place in the right time to clear that one off the line. But nevertheless, Julio did eventually finish this one off, as in the latter the minutes of the stoppage time and really the last kick of this game, he would score from Kreilach to make it 3-1 in favor of RSL, and that would be the final score of this game, as RSL not only gets the victory in this one, but they were able to take the Rocky Mountain Cup back from the Colorado Rapids after winning this one. Remember, if they can win this one or even draw this one against the Rapids, they would win the Rocky Mountain Cup, and they were able to get the win here to retain that trophy again. The shots in this one, 8 shots compared to 12 that the Rapids had, 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Rapids had, 2 shots off target compared to 4 that the Rapids had, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 5 that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And like I said, for the Rapids, they're going to make it to the playoffs. There's one team they do not want to play is Real Salt Lake. And you can maybe even argue with another team they do not want to play is the Seattle Sounders, because they tend to kind of struggle against them too. But another thing that I will also say with the Rapids is that, you know, we've seen this happen this season where it just feels like when they do face against tough opponents, they kind of falter. And this is maybe some concerning thing for Rapids fan, and certainly for Robin Fraser, where maybe, you know, I don't want to say that this is just a team that they got themselves in a good position right now in the playoffs just because they were able to win against easy opponent. I mean, that's kind of what good teams do. Like, you know, they take care of business against easy opponent, and they are able to get crucial wins against team around them. But, you know, when you look at how it is, and the fact that they still haven't really had that season-defining wins this year, you know, it does kind of makes you wonder how are they going to do when they do face against those tough teams. I mean, they can't completely prove everybody wrong in that when playoff time comes, they could get those wins and stuff. But again, I'm going to be interested to see when they do play against a tough team. And, you know, down the season, I think they still have a couple of good teams that they get to face. But I think the reason why maybe the Rapids are not getting a lot of credit with how their season has been is maybe because they've been playing a lot of easy opponent and able to take advantage of it. But when they do face against real team, that's when they do start to struggle. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 11 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 11 of this game. And tonight, after when the game between the Whitecaps and Sporting KC is finished, I, of course, will be doing the review of the 2 games that is going to happen. And again, since I'm in the East Coast, it is very difficult, the fact that, you know, the last game actually didn't finish until 12:30 in the morning, and it just kind of feels so weird yesterday, still watching an MLS game even that late into the evening. And, of course, going to have to do the same thing again today, with the last game isn't going to finish until midnight. But as I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.